camera. Camera's honest.
I know, I know. Wait, can they hear us right now?
Please do not change anything. I will stand there and I will give you a heads up. When they come, you will need to come here.
What is it?
Are they?
Huh? Yeah, yeah. Oh, come quickly already.
Oh.
I'm just gonna ignore them. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise to welcome Her Excellency Margriet Vonno, Ambassador of the Kingdom of the Netherlands to Singapore and Brunei, with a thunderous applause.
A very good afternoon to one and all present here. I am Srinidhi Om Prakash with my co-host Akshay Puri, and we warmly welcome you all to this edition of the GIIS Leadership Lecture Series. The leadership lectures bring to the GIIS stage leaders and experts, pathbreakers and pathmakers from all walks of life to share their stories, their work, and their vision, inspiring the youth to chart their journeys with confidence and determination.
Today, we have the privilege to have among us a leader of distinction from the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Her Excellency Margriet Vonno, who took office as Ambassador to Singapore in 2017. Ambassador Vonno has held important portfolios in the Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs, as well as the Ministry of Infrastructure and Environment. Not only that, she has served in different positions in international organizations in New York, Washington, D.C., Brussels, and The Hague.
With her vast and varied experience, as well as ineffable charm, Her Excellency has made a mark on the international diplomatic scene as a woman to reckon with. She has harnessed her passion for sustainable living and transformed it into impactful action. Within 2 years as the ambassador, she officiated the use of electric vehicles as the official embassy car, something that sets an example for everyone around the world.
Moreover, Ambassador Vonno has used her position and her influence to support women empowerment. She has also been a strong advocate of innovation and work-life balance.
But before we invite her for the address, let me take the opportunity to share with the ambassador the small ways in which we are promoting environment awareness and actions at our campus. Your Excellency, you will be pleased to know that we are a Green Marked Gold campus under National Environment Agency, and through our environment initiatives, we're connected to the World Wildlife Fund as well as Dr. Jane Goodall Roots and Shoots. The school has an environment lab, and just last week, students of high school initiated the GIIS Youth for Climate Action Club.
It is our good fortune that Her Excellency has done us the honor of visiting our campus and agreed to address the students. And it is precisely this opportunity that we're looking forward to. Let us now, without any further ado, request Her Excellency to address the students.
Good afternoon, everybody. Wow, what a huge crowd. I'm really pleased that you're all here listening to me. And I have one technical question because my PowerPoint... Yeah, I would like to use a clicker. And it's working, which is not always the case. So I guess you have good vibes. Thank you so much for starting that with me. Also very nice that I can share this with the audience all over the world. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Margriet Vonno, and the MCs pronounce my name perfectly. Also not always the case when I'm being announced, so you nailed it here in the school. And actually that feels really nice, because I feel like you acknowledge me as a person, as the ambassador, the mother, the wife, and the fellow human being that I am. Well, I love flowers. My favorite are still the tulips, but I love the orchids here as well. Next year, you should join me at Tulip Mania at Gardens by the Bay, because I'm going to curate the next Tulip Mania. It will be number 8, the best one ever, with a lot of Dutch tulips. And this is my country. A lot of gabled houses, a very old history, and those houses, maybe you know if you fly KLM, you get them sometimes as a token of appreciation and a reward. And this actually is the Royal Palace in Amsterdam. And last year I had the privilege of standing next to Her Excellency President Halima Jacob, who had the first ever state visit from the Netherlands, from Singapore to the Netherlands. And there you see the Royal Guards and the president. Her husband, he was shivering. It was in November. November can be pretty cold in the Netherlands. Luckily, he got a big hat on top of himself, so the protocol was upgraded. And when I still see Mr. Mohammed, we joke about that Singapore is much warmer and in a way more agreeable than the Netherlands in November. But this is also my country. This is why I sometimes feel homesick. I love my country, which is a country of water, and we've learned to live with the water. Not fight it, but like it. I also like it that in my country, we have a lot of old buildings. This is the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. But in front of the Rijksmuseum, if you watch closely, you see a lot of bicycle wrecks, because most visitors come on their bicycle to that museum. Thank you. Does anybody know who this person on a Dutch bicycle is? Wow, you're much better than the impact public, which were all professionals. Wow, good for you. I'm really impressed. This is our king, His Royal Highness Willem-Alexander. And actually, he loves cycling. So although he's the king, and of course he sometimes has other transport, he likes to cycle when he can in the Netherlands. this one is not a princess or a royal one. She's my daughter. And I have this picture here. She's now 13, like you, at an international school. So maybe she feels a little bit like, Mommy, what are you doing now? Taking fun of me. I don't mean to take fun of her, but I show you that part of the Dutch way of raising your kids is, as soon as you can, teach your kids how to ride a bicycle. I was so proud. This was in Belgium when she could ride a bicycle without any training wheels. So everybody was cheering and she got a present. That's part of the Dutch way of bringing your kids a sustainable way. I want to share a small video with you. Thank you. It's a quick way of showing what we're doing. And actually, we're doing a lot together with Singapore, India, China, the US, because that's what I want to emphasize. I'm talking about sustainability, which is something you can't do all by yourself. I'm also working together with the Dutch artist Daan Rosegaard. He's also working here in Singapore. And this is his Starry Night Van Gogh bicycle path. You see it lights up at night. It doesn't use any energy because the sun warms it during the day, and that way those small particles light up at night. So I call this sustainable beauty because it makes our, and in the town in the southern part of the Netherlands where this is, there's now much more traffic from tourists because they want to see it by themselves. If they've seen it on Instagram, it's okay. But if you can cycle at night or have a romantic walk holding hands, it's a good backdrop. I also want to share with you, especially you students, that we can't do it alone. What can you do to be sustainable, to fight the planet? Well, like you're doing together a lot of stuff, but I think Greta Thunberg really inspired a lot of people all over the world. And sometimes you can be young, female, and maybe a lot of people don't like you, but you make a difference for your peers and for the future. So I'm inspired by her. Also, we want to save the oceans. You ask me, what can we do? Well, actually, I've been working with this gentleman, Jeroen van der Waal. He lives in Singapore, he works in Malaysia and Indonesia, and what he does, he has a lot of camps for students who want to save the ocean. He even wrote a book, which is not so much for parents, but for students, with a lot of tips. What can you do to make your parents behave better? My daughter has read it, and I have a lot of side effects of that book, because there's a lot that a parent can do better. But it's the same for you, because I have to admit, I see plastic bottles there. I'm not allowed to use plastic bottles anymore by my daughter. So I have one reusable plastic bottle that I take, and I always ask for PUB water in a glass can or whatever, because that's something you can do. What can you do more? If you see litter, you can just take it and throw it away, so it doesn't end up in the... So when I was with her in the park, I was constantly getting litter removed to the dustbin. So it was sometimes very messy, but it made us feel better. On a bigger scale, the ocean cleanup. That's a Dutch initiative by a student who actually dropped out of high school to pursue his goal. His name is Boyan Slat. He quit his studies at university as the Technical University of Delft. But what he's done, he raised $300 million US, and he's now actually in the Indian Ocean with his third prototype, which is working quite well now. It's such big air arms who encompass all the plastic waste, and then a boat puts it ashore and tries to reuse it. So those are really people who take the hard way and who are inspiring. This year, KLM has its 100 years anniversary. And what I like about the Dutch national carrier, that they focus on sustainability. This one is sometimes in Singapore, the orange plane, always my favorite. And actually, this is what I got from KLM. It's my new favorite handbag, and it's made of discarded uniforms of the aircrew. So what they do, they use the uniforms to make actually fashion items. Also, the carpet that's in the new planes is made from old uniforms. So they reuse everything, also because this is the new business model. A lot of young Dutch want to fly in a greener way. So they want to have biofuel, they want to see there's less food waste and other stuff. What are we doing on a more engineering scale? This is a firm with LED lighting, and maybe you are aware of the fact that the government of Singapore wants 30% homegrown food by 2030. Well, the Dutch are heavily involved there, because we have what we call urban farming, LED lighting, we reuse the water, we have pest control with wasps or insects, and it's totally organic, and we hope to invest in that together. This is in Holland, where this is the crooked cucumber group, because we throw away 20% of our cucumbers or food waste because it's not square. And according to rules and regulations, only the square ones can be sold. So we changed the rules. First, we used them to make soup out of it, but now you see that food waste in the Netherlands is less than before, because we want to have some initiatives. But here again, young students, they push the government to change regulations. I'm very proud that my economy in the Netherlands is one of the most recycled ones in the Netherlands. By 2030, 80%, 80, of our materials will be reused. And what we've seen, you can't just have the final product and reuse it. You have to start in the beginning of the chain. And you have a lot of labs, and you are very creative. I'm interested in your ideas. How can you set up a system of engineering where you already think about the final product and make it the sort of generating one for the new one? This is in the polder in the Netherlands. You may be aware that in Singapore, the first ever polder in Southeast Asia is being built by the Dutch nowadays. I was born in the polder. I never realized until I was 12 years old that I was all the time living underneath the sea level and that it could be dangerous. It doesn't feel dangerous because we have our technology and we still use it to live with the water, even in the rising sea levels. This I really like. I call them the wibbly-wobbly trees in the harbor of Rotterdam. And actually, those are trees that have been discarded because there was public works and they had to change part of the... Normally, those trees are felled and that's it. They now have a tree sanctuary. All those trees, those orphan trees, are being collected there. And those buoys are made out of discarded plastic. And actually, it's very nice if you walk past it, even with strong winds, they've never really gone down. So they're very versatile. And that way we have a sort of new forest in our tiny Netherlands. And this is a pavilion also in the city of Rotterdam, which is totally green. So it uses its own wastewater, reuses it, it has the solar panels and everything. And we have a lot of nice events there. So what we see is that green is making our country nicer and better. This is one of the rooftop gardens that we have. I know you have a lot of great cooks and chefs here in the school. I don't know whether you already have your rooftop garden and use it. I love the taste of those fresh berries or herbs that you can do, and you have better food, and it's also more engaging. I do it sometimes yourself in our Tampines hub or in Singapore. It's fun, and you also realize where your food comes from. This is a blue whale made by an American artist out of plastic waste from the ocean. This is in Utrecht in the Netherlands, where it's been for a long time. But it's coming to Singapore, near the Arts and Science Museum, as a sign that we shouldn't really waste all the plastic in our oceans. And there will be a lot of events there as well. So I hope you will have an opportunity to visit it while it's there. And I really like it that the museum in Singapore is also trying to have a more sustainable way of looking at the future. This is one of my favorite startups in the Netherlands. It's a bunch of cool guys and girls who decided we like boarding, but we don't like waste. So they got all the bottle caps of a lot, not only Coke, but all the important brands, and they made them into what they call waste boards. And they're now one of the coolest boards you can have if you want to use a board in the Netherlands. So this is an example for how being circular can also be very profitable. Because if you're really cool in the Netherlands and you have your skateboard, then you use a waste board. And we have a lot of less waste of bottle caps as well. Does anybody recognize this painting? Anybody know who the painter can be? It's a long time ago, so... Yes? Rembrandt, you're right. It's the painter Rembrandt van Rijn. Wow, you have a lot of knowledge in this group. This is the most famous painting in the Netherlands. It's in the Rijksmuseum in the Netherlands. It's called The Night Watch, and it's a group of people in the Netherlands who wanted a painting in the time without the selfies. I think it was 1600 somewhere that it was painted. This is the new Rembrandt from the company Unwearables. They have special fabrics for professional wear, which is only from used materials. And they also try to open up the business market and saying, hey, if you're sustainable, you can even have stronger, better wear uniforms. And I see that a lot of companies in the Netherlands use those materials because they want to be sustainable and therefore attract more the millennials to work for them, because that's part of the business model nowadays in the Netherlands. This is a phone in the Netherlands which is called Fairphone because it's totally reusable. You can reuse the battery. You can put everything on and off so that you don't have to throw away your phone every 2 years. And sometimes it's difficult because I have to admit, I tried it once and then I said, I can't have all my apps, so I still have my other phone as well. But I think it's becoming better and better every year, and it's great that somebody's trying to reuse materials and still be in the digital age. This is in an old town in the Netherlands, but it's the smart minds of the Technical University Delft who always win the solar panel races. For years they've done so. And solar energy is very important in the Netherlands, electric driving as well. And you see that we're heavily investing in that future. And I'm indeed very proud that I'm the first ambassador to drive an electric car, a hybrid car here in Singapore. I still have to charge at my residence, but I think the infrastructure will change soon in Singapore. Now, I asked you, what can you do? But I can do a lot myself as well, even without my daughter lecturing me. This is a group of EU ambassadors and other colleagues at Changi Beach, because twice a year we do a cleanup at the beach, and we do it all over the world with EU colleagues. And what I've seen there, it's that styrofoam that's so difficult to get away. It's those small particles. And this is really bad for the wildlife. Because if you look at the beaches in Singapore, they look really clean. But then if you look further down at the green plants, you see those small particles which take hours to get away. So you get a feel about what it means, the plastic. And I still volunteer twice a year to do my bit here. What we also like to do, I love cycling. It's my favorite pastime in Singapore. Unfortunately, I can't cycle to work because it's a little bit too dangerous in Orchard Road where my embassy is. But we like to cycle in the weekends. And are you aware that sometimes you have car-free Sundays? That you can cycle at Chinatown, and that's great. URA is organizing this. I always go. And this was with a group of friends where we had a very nice feel of Singapore. And I still love to cycle as much as I can because it's also better for the emissions of carbohydrate. Now, I've told you a lot, but I want you to share with me in learning more about the environment. I have a small quiz about, I think, 8 or 10 questions, and I would like all of you to join me. My idea is that everybody's going to, please keep seated for now, I'll just explain first. Everybody's going to stand at the beginning of a question. If you think the answer is true, you keep standing. If you think it's false, you sit down. So I get a feel about, and I'll tell you the correct answer at the end of the question. Are you ready and up for that? Yeah? Okay, let's all... Okay. Rubbish, waste into the ocean from beaches is the leading cause of pollution of streams, rivers, and oceans. Keep standing if you think it's true. Sit down if you think it's false. I count to 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, I think most of you believe it's true. But actually, it's not. 80% of the waste comes from the rivers, and that's then going into the ocean. And actually, a lot of it is then put on the beaches and goes back. Yeah, I told you there are difficult questions. Stand up again, the next one. Oil and gas are the primary source of energy for Earth's climate system. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I see a lot of people who correctly said sit down because, of course, it's the sun, the primary source of energy. Well, this is going well. Let's take the next question. Paper can be recycled infinitely. Or do you think there's a date, expiry date? Okay, actually, paper can be recycled many, many times, up to 11 times, but then it's wearing down. Yeah. So, the ozone layer impacts life on Earth because it filters out harmful UV radiation from sunlight. I think we all agree that this is true, and it's true to really be aware of. I think this is 100%. We all agree. It's true. Well done. Well, the use of sustainable biojet fuel, like the Dutch KLM is using, compared to conventional fuel, can reduce CO2 emissions by up to 50%. Is it that high, or is it lower? Or higher? Okay, actually it's false, because it's not... It's a lot higher. It can be up to 80%, 80% reduction. Okay, the rainwater collected on the roof of the Art Science Museum, where also the well will be, is reused in the building's washroom system. Yeah, I think you've been there. Maybe you noticed the signs, but it's true. They reuse their water. Yeah. In the Netherlands, we have almost 18 million people. Do you think we have as many bicycles as people or not? I see a lot of you sitting down on your right, because we have a lot more bicycles than people. Yeah, we have actually 23 million bicycles, but that's because they discount some. I think it's closer to 30. So this is a difficult one again. Factory farmed beef is the most unsustainable meat to consume. Do you think this is true or false? Actually, it's lamb meat, because for lamb meat, it's very unsustainable, because you need a lot of patience and stuff. I didn't realize that myself. And by the way, I am not a vegetarian, but my daughter also inspired me to saying, not more than 2 nights a week that I eat not vegetarian. Then I'm a flexitarian. So she pushed me in the right direction. And the final questions. Do you know how many tons of CO2 the haze has produced? Do you think this is the correct answer? I think you're right. This is true. It's really... So, before I finish my talk and we go to the questions and answer, I want to ask you even more. You know, it's not a free lecture for you. It's with a lot of homework. Because my colleague Venetia, who's standing there in the front, can you show what you're having next to you, Venetia, in front of the audience? It's an orange backpack, very unique from the Netherlands, and I want to give it to the one of you who can help me on Instagram. I like to be inspired by you. If you can send me pictures of you being sustainable in Singapore, in India, wherever on the world, and you tag my embassy, which is called Netherlands in Singapore, NL in Singapore, we will try to share those pictures also with people in the Netherlands so that they can learn from you. It's always a two-way street. And the one who's most inspirational can come to my embassy, meet my staff, and have a Dutch orange backpack that you can use here in the school. Are you willing to join me there? That's great, because actually part of being sustainable is doing stuff together, is learning from one another. And what I've learned as an ambassador, I can learn a lot from the new generation. So this is me and my team, and I'm very happy that you listened to me so thoroughly and that you were so enthusiastic with the quiz. But I want to show this picture because I'm never doing it alone. I might be standing here holding the lecture, but Venetia has helped me, many of my staff, and I think it's the same with you. You will have the group work, so maybe you can applaud yourself for everything that you've done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Vonno, for sharing your vision of what good leadership is all about in the context of environmental action in the modern world. We request your presence on stage for a panel discussion. May I invite our panel of students from IB Year 1 and CBSE Grade 11 to the stage for the same. Over to the panel to continue with the program.
It's truly an honor to share the stage with you. My name is Ansing Hania, and these are my fellow panelists, Sara, Gauri, and Vinantika. I'm sorry, I'm nervous, please. Please bear with me. I'm sorry, Your Excellency. My first question for you is regarding sports and your enthusiasm for physical activity. How do children in the Netherlands manage to strike a balance between sports and academics, especially in higher classes? And how does the education system support this?
That's a very nice question. And I have to tell you that the students in the Netherlands have a better work-life balance. I lectured about that because you have a little bit less homework and you come home earlier. So my daughter is now saying, I have to work so hard in Singapore. And I think it's true. A little bit in Asia, the pressure is higher, which I think is good for grades. But I do believe that you also have to exercise and have to enjoy, also to grow into a better person, a better leader later. So what we have in the Netherlands is that a lot of people are either at a soccer club, swimming club, water polo, you name it, self-defense courses, and that's normal. But what is different in the Netherlands is that there's more freedom for teenagers because they cycle. So they don't need their parents to bring them. It's quite safe. So that's something that my daughter misses from the Netherlands and which I think now is very special in my country.
Thank you, Excellency, for your views. I now pass the mic to Sara for the next question.
Citizens in Singapore and Netherlands are getting aware of the hazards of climate change and involved in beach cleanups and other eco-friendly activities. And you also mentioned in your speech that environment activists like Greta Thunberg are also making powerful speeches on this crisis in international forums. So do you think that awareness is all that matters? And what measures can the youth take towards protecting the environment?
Well, thank you for that question. What I see is that the awareness is highest in your age group here in Singapore. And you are very, very important, actually, to influence your teacher, your member of parliament, your parents, whatever. Because I do notice that the younger generation is more aware of the fact that we can't discuss, we have to act. And I'm a diplomat, so I talk all the time, I discuss. But I realize too that you need action. So it's very easy. Start with yourself. I never book a hotel that has plastic bottles. I always ask them, how much of your energy do you reuse before I book? So the power of buying is very important. You could do it the same when you go to the supermarket, that you try to buy a local product. In my residence, I host a lot of luncheons. I always go to Citizen Farm around the corner to get some fresh food and vegetables, because that's the way that you can start with yourself. And being an ambassador, I can influence others, and they say, wow, this is impactful. Also in what I'm wearing, because this is my orange dress that I wore for the National Day of the Netherlands, and I'm not buying new dresses all the time, I'm reusing them. And I always say orange is the new green because we want to be a green country. And this is one of my favorite scarves. I bought it in New Delhi 15 years ago. I still like it a lot, and it's very good quality because I washed it. And sometimes that's also being sustainable. That's not just doing the latest fashion, but just cherishing stuff that's there. And this is my sort of memory of my great time in India.
Thank you. Over to Vinantika.
We live in an era where technology is rapidly developing and is more prevalent than ever. How practical do you think it is to resort to our traditional methods? Also, in the context of sustainability, do you think that whether technology, is it a bane or is it a boon?
Oh, I think technology is going to the rescue. It's very, very important. And we in the Netherlands invest a lot in that new technology. From the reuse of water, from urban farming, where we used to use 20 times as much water in the past as we do now. And that's very important for sustainability and for living, and especially technology that makes us use less energy, because energy is very often the bottleneck. And if we can turn that around, it will be much better for the future. I've always seen in the past that new technology solved a lot of problems, so I'm really counting on that, and I'm quite optimistic about the future, but not if we keep talking, because I've seen the scenarios of Shell Company and other ones that we will have over 2 degrees heating of the Earth if we continue like we're doing now, then even the 1.5 we won't meet, and that will have huge impacts on our homes, on our agriculture, on the way we live. I think we have to start with ourselves and then pressure others. And my take is that the power of buying is really the most powerful one to convince companies and other governments to follow suit.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Gauri, for the next question.
You've had an extremely successful career in the span of over 2 decades, and you are among the 11 women ambassador in Singapore. You must feel really proud. So, in today's day and age, do you think that female diplomats are in a good place, or is it more challenging for you to take matters into your own hands and resolve issues?
Well, that's a nice question, and I see a lot of young talent here, both male and female, which I think is going to follow in my footsteps. I think for now it's an advantage because we have 72 ambassadors in Singapore, 11 of them are female, so we're the smaller group. And if you're an ambassador, you always have to pose for pictures with the minister or otherwise. So I said, well, I'm the female, I should be in the center, in the midst, so I'm always very visible, which is good for my country. Secondly, I always try to send a message through the way I'm dressed. And because in Singapore you don't wear ties a lot, it's much more difficult for my male colleagues to do that nuance where I can do a lot of my messaging in the way I'm dressing or what I want to say, so that's a bonus. And I have to add to you, I'm very proud of what I'm doing here and what I can do for my country. But actually my career has been a normal career with a lot of setbacks, a lot of jobs that I didn't get. But in the end, you see the results that have passed. And I think that whatever you do later, if you're going to be an engineer or a diplomat or a chef, you will feel the same. But if you don't know, you think like, oh, that Dutch ambassador, it was so easy with her. No. But I persevered. That's one lesson I want to share with you. Whatever you do, sometimes you have a good grade, sometimes a bad one. There will be always ups and downs. And what I've learned, even after a low, to continue working, to not blame others or be spiteful, and to try again. And in the end, it got me where I am today, and I'm also very grateful of what I can do today with you together.
Just a follow-up question. You had mentioned that you had faced a couple of setbacks in your career. Would you say that you have had any regrets in your career?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Actually, I do. If I look at my husband, who quit his job 20 years ago, and my daughter, they gave up a lot for my career. And sometimes I feel like, should I have done that? Because my life has impacted them a lot. So that's something which is still sometimes coming up. But then I love what I'm doing, and they say, well, let's go for it. But sometimes I'm not sure if I've made the right decision. And I'm most proud of the fact what I've done best in my career is giving young people a chance. And in the Netherlands especially, a lot of students, like one came from Bosnia after the war, another lady from Morocco, and then it can be a setback if you're bicultural and the majority is different. And I always saw the person and gave chances, and people fulfilled their expectation and everybody was happy. But my negative is that sometimes I was too stubborn. You can be right, but I've learned that sometimes you don't have to tell in public that the other is wrong to get the result, especially not if the other is your boss. So I've become more diplomatic there, and I'm happy now that I'm in a position to be a role model for others, but still willing and able to listen to people like yourself about your ideas of the future.
Thank you so much for enlightening us. Over to Sarah for the next question.
You're preoccupied with a lot of legislative duties as an ambassador, and you never fail to devote time to your health and well-being at the same time. So what does a typical day in your life look like, and how do you manage to maintain a work-life balance?
I don't at the moment. My work-life balance sucks. But normally it's better. But I have so many delegations now in town that I start with a breakfast meeting and my gala dinner is the end of the day. And in between, I hope to get some hours of rest. So it's sometimes weeks that you're working on adrenaline. And that what did I do yesterday? I forgot, because it's been so much. But those weeks also are very important to energize communities, to get stuff together. And what I'll do, I'll have just a weekend where I download my ebooks and I swim some laps, and that's it. And I just do nothing. And in a way, it's like Zen recuperating yourself.
We have seen that you're very fitness-oriented, and we come from a background where women in India traditionally prefer cooking over being fit. So do you like to cook?
No. Actually, my husband is a very good cook. And I could cook a little bit because I think it's a skill that everybody should master. But then my daughter was complaining, I don't like it so much if you cook, Mommy. It's not so yummy as if Daddy cooks. And so it evolved over time that I don't cook anymore.
Thank you. Over to
Yeah, so that's just my question. So, Your Excellency, you are working on issues close to your heart, and your position helps you make a difference to your country and the international community. As a leader, you have both the power and the responsibility of doing so. And you are doing a wonderful job at it. But going forward, what legacy do you want to leave to your daughter and her generation?
Wow, I hope that I can be able to leave the earth a little bit better than I found it. Because I really think that we are here as a species for the long run, and that we should be very aware. So I feel, because I'm now in a position of power and leadership, that I should be a custodian. And not so much of the Netherlands, but more together with other international leaders of the planet, and trying to solve stuff and see solutions. And I myself try to combine education, business, and government in finding those solutions.
All right, thank you. Over to Vinantika for the next question.
You have been a diplomat for many years right now. So you probably must have encountered different cultures, languages, and traditions. So on a lighter note, do you remember any amusing moment in your career, and would you like to share it with us?
Well, yes, and sometimes also a little bit awkward moments. Once, when I was a younger diplomat in the UN, I got a gold necklace from an Arab prince, and I went to my ambassador and I said, what's the diplomatic usance if you, as a diplomat, get a present? And they said, well, in the Netherlands, if it's over the equivalent of 50 Sing dollars, we can't accept it. So I returned it and I said, I apologize that I can't accept your gracious gift. And he accepted that. And I've noticed when I was younger, because diplomacy is really hierarchical, and I was a junior diplomat at the time, that I could use the fact in the end that I was the only female and the only one who looked a little bit different, because a lot of my negotiators came from other parts of the world, to my advantage, because even ambassadors would notice me and would negotiate with me. So instead of being mad like, oh, maybe they only know that I'm female and have blonde hair, I thought, wow, they want to negotiate with me, let's have a deal. And I had a lot of interesting deals out of that. So I've learned that being the odd one out sometimes is the way in.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. You truly are an inspiration. Thank you so much. So now over to Ansh.
In today's world, we see that we're entangled with so many responsibilities. We're so busy with our daily lives. And as a diplomat, you have great responsibility over your shoulders because you represent your country. So what is your mantra and how do you cope with challenges and stresses in your life? And what are a few qualities that we as young people should develop to become great leaders in the future?
I like this question. I have 3 items that I want to share with you. First, I try to laugh about myself, because I think if you can't make fun of yourself and you think about yourself too seriously, it's always the end of leadership, in my personal opinion. Secondly, every day I write down what I'm grateful for, because it makes me more open to others and less stressed out. So I don't write down what went wrong, because there might be a lot that went wrong. I write down, oh, there was such a nice smile of that porter when he opened the door to me, and that was really kind. Thirdly, I admit and acknowledge that I make a lot of mistakes every day, and that's okay. I don't have to be perfect. I'm not perfect, but actually I've never met a perfect person in my life. Only some people on Instagram who seem to be perfect, but I doubt if their life is really that perfect. And that helps me accept that sometimes I forget a name or I arrive too late where I don't want to be because I'm too rushed.
Thank you, ma'am. Truly enlightening. With this, we come to the end of the panel discussions. Over to Srinidhi and Akshay.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your participation in the question and answer session. May we now invite Chairman and co-founder of Global Schools Foundation, Mr. Atul Thermanikar, to present Her Excellency a tribute to our affection and gratitude.
We would now like to invite the Deputy COO, Mr. Kaustubh, to come and present this.
Thank you, sir. I also invite my co-host Akshay Puri to propose the word of thanks.
On behalf of Global Schools Foundation and the network of Global Indian International Schools, we sincerely thank Her Excellency for giving us this opportunity to interact with her. We are indeed very grateful that she took out the time from a busy schedule to come and be with us. Thank you, everyone, for being a wonderful audience and joining us for this engaging and interesting leadership lecture. With this, we come to the end of the leadership lecture. Let us all rise for the national anthems.